Hi. Hey guys, what's up? My name is Dom. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I typically make bookish content, movie content, and anything else in between because I like to do whatever I want on this channel, and tonight's going to be movie content. Tonight we're finally going to go over all the movies that I watched in the month of August. I watched a total of 7 movies, 3 of which were rewatches, and we're just going to jump right into it because the first movie we're going to talk about, my notes are a mess. So if you guys remember, in the months of June and July, so basically over the summer, I was doing a Star Wars marathon. I was re-watching every single episode. So I finally completed that challenge in the month of August because the first movie I watched was a rewatch of Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. This movie is well hated throughout the fandom, whether you liked Episode 8 or not. Everyone was disappointed by this movie, and quite frankly, like, I kind of was too. However, despite the hot fucking mess that this movie is, I loved every second of it. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I don't know. Like, I am well aware this movie's kind of objectively trash. It's a hot mess. A lot of the writing doesn't make sense. A lot of the characterization doesn't make sense. But in my personal opinion, this movie is so bad that I actually had a lot of fun with this one. I truly had fun with how bad it was, and I would rather watch this than Episode 8. Episode 8 is still, despite growing a newfound appreciation for it during my rewatch, Episode 8 is still my least favorite in the sequels, and is actually one of my top 3 least favorites in all of the 9 movies. Let's just jump into this review. Just fair warning, it's gonna be messy because the movie is messy. The movie didn't make any sense. First of all, I will say the one thing I really actually did not like and did not have fun with was the constant use of the resurrection trope. Characters would often, like, die, and it was written for you to believe that they died, and they would just come back to life, or they would just reappear. Hello, I was never dead in the first place. So maybe resurrection trope isn't the correct word for it if they never died. But, like, that I got tired with. I was getting really bored with it, and that was easily predictable. Moving on, though. Okay, so I have a lot of notes about Palpatine, because Palpatine was random as hell in this movie. Like, the usage of him, like, that I agree with. It was so random. Like, what do you mean Rey is his granddaughter? But despite that, if we had to have Palpatine, there were actually some ideas I did like. The writing was obviously lackluster, but there are some ideas I did like and kind of wish they changed things up a little bit. Like, there's that one part where Rey is talking to the evil version of herself, and I really liked that. And quite frankly, it was watching that part where I kind of wished that Rey's character arc was becoming evil. And the whole, like, Palpatine cult thing at the end, that I really liked. The visuals and the audio of that, I really liked that as well, and I like the fact that there was a cult, because if you know me, I love cults. However, again, I wish Rey stayed evil, but then maybe killed Palpatine and became more powerful than he did. Became more powerful than Snoke and Palpatine. That's what I wish her arc was, which I discussed this in another video. Rey can't win just because, like, oh, if she becomes a hero, that's just mimicking Luke Skywalker's arc. If she started out nice but becomes evil, that's just mimicking Anakin Skywalker's arc. So she, as a character, she really can't win. However, if I had to choose between hero and villain, I want her to be the villain. I want her to be more powerful. I do find stories where you see someone's, like, descent into madness vastly fascinating, and quite frankly more fascinating than, like, a hero story. However, having said that, I did like the part where she was kind of facing her downfall, and then you hear the past Jedi speaking to her. I know a lot of people didn't like that, like, at all. Some found it corny, just some were very, very resentful and hateful towards that scene for whatever reason. And yeah, it's corny, but I thought it was kind of cute. It's something I kind of wish they did with Luke Skywalker, just to kind of cement in those first 3 movies how important the Jedi are. Do I like the execution? I'm not too sure, but do I like the idea, the concept of it? Yes. Let's talk about Reylo. Reylo was really fucking weird to me. I didn't like Reylo in my first viewing. I still don't like Reylo now. Listen, I always thought Reylo was kind of a trash ship, because it felt, like, the first viewing of the sequels, it felt incredibly incestuous to me, but that's because in my first viewing, I was kind of dead set on Rey being a Skywalker, like a literal Skywalker, not, how do I phrase it? Because I know she's like, I am Rey Skywalker by the end of this movie. But, like, during my first viewing, I thought she was, like, going to literally be Luke Skywalker's daughter, and then in turn Anakin's granddaughter, just because of that whole scene with the lightsaber in Episode 7. So I was convinced she was related to the Skywalkers, and then, you know, Kylo Ren is Leia's son, so I thought they were cousins. I was dead set on them being cousins the whole time. That's why it felt incestuous to me all this time. And then also, like, the final kiss was fucking stupid and corny. But upon my rewatch, knowing that she is not literally related to the Skywalkers, to me they just had no romantic interest in each other, and there wasn't enough for it to be like a good enemies to lovers type of story, type of ship. So I'm still not a fan of that ship. Quite frankly, Reylo was trying to be Zutara so hard. Zutara from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which yes, I still prefer over Katang, blah 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 blah. Unlike Zuko, Kylo Ren didn't really go through a good, well-established redemption arc. It was very, very rushed. So, like, the good in him just came out randomly, obviously, and, like, once again, the kiss between him and Rey was, like, super random and corny because then he ended up dying afterwards. Needless to say, I really don't like Reylo. I think it's dumb and kind of hilarious to me at the same time that it is canon now. When I watched that scene, I literally laughed out loud. And I laughed out loud again during my rewatch. And I think I said this in another video, but once again, if Reylo had to be a thing, like a concept I really liked would be like how in episode 8 when they killed Snoke, what I really wanted was for Kylo Ren to embrace his evilness, grab Rey, they run away together, but not to like have this stupid ass redemption arc that he ended up having and her hero arc, but kill Snoke, be evil together and be more powerful. I think that would have made for a great story. Again, it's kind of mimicking that villain arc of Anakin Skywalker, but if I had to choose between hero and villain, that's what I want to see. I should fucking rewrite these movies. I think I have a good idea going on here. They threw away the character Rose, which I remember that going in, but I forgot how little she actually is in this movie, and I still feel bad for Kelly Marie Tran who played Rose, because episode 8 she had like a pretty big role, and then the fandom was just horrible to her, and now she wants nothing to do with the series, and I don't blame her for wanting nothing to do with this franchise. Some final thoughts about Luke and Leia especially. Near the end of the movie, you know, Rey introduces herself as a Skywalker. She's on Tatooine, and she sees like the ghost versions of Luke and Leia kind of sending her off. A lot of people hated that and found it corny, but I am that person who, given what this franchise decided to give us, I actually like that idea. Again, execution, I don't know if it worked out, but like as a concept, I really like that. It felt like a very nice send-off, like the fans are finally being able to say goodbye to these characters. And I feel like it's something that we could have seen in the original trilogy, given how corny those movies were. However though, speaking of Leia, I know they had to essentially kill off Leia because at this point Carrie Fisher had unfortunately passed away. I wish Leia's death was more impactful. She kind of it's like I don't know how they could really fix this because I know she was actually she had actually passed on prior to filming this movie. I just wish it was more impactful because I feel like her death was a little too random. And I don't want to say it's insulting, given like Carrie Fisher and how big Leia is, because like I feel like that's too strong of a word, but it's unfortunate, I guess, that she didn't have like a bigger send off. However, Chewie falling to his knees screaming, girl, I literally teared up. So yeah, that was a hot mess. This movie's a hot mess, but again, I had a lot of fun with how bad this movie was. It felt, despite liking episode 7 so much better, it's had the same vibes as episode 7, which I think is why I liked it more than 8, or I'd rather watch it again than episode 8. It leads me to ask, like, what would have happened if J.J. Abrams was able to have his original script? But I read somewhere he was originally set to direct all 3 movies. Something happened so that episode 8 and 9 had 2 different people. But then the backlash to episode 8 was so bad, that's why they kicked off the guy for episode 9 and brought back J.J. Abrams. And I think I read somewhere too that J.J. Abrams said Rian Johnson went into like a completely different direction than what Abrams originally wanted to do with 8. So it leads me to, it like makes me wonder what episode 9 could have been if Disney was just like, hey, have the same guy direct all 3 films from the beginning. And what J.J. Abrams' like second original script was for episode 9, because prior to Carrie Fisher's death, episode 9 was actually supposed to be extremely Leia focused. But unfortunately Carrie Fisher did pass away, so J.J. Abrams talked about how he essentially had to write the script all over again, and he had to change some major plot points because we don't have a Leia anymore. I wonder how much of that impacted the way the script ended up turning out, because I mean, knowing Disney, it's a mega corporation, these movies were coming out every year, I'm sure he had like no time to rewrite that script. So, I mean, this is not me trying to defend this movie, because the movie's still bad. It's just an interesting behind-the-scenes tidbit, and it makes me wonder, like, what could have been. But also, I remember some of the comments when Carrie Fisher died and we found all of that out, because some of those comments were disgusting. People were literally, when this movie came out, and this is something people forget about, but I, like, clearly remember these conversations going on the internet. When episode 9 came out, people were blaming Carrie Fisher, getting mad at, you know, someone who's dead. They were blaming Carrie Fisher for dying and ruining Star Wars. Y'all are, this fandom is in the fucking trenches. The Star Wars fandom, and I'm saying that as someone who's in the fandom, is fucking insane. I don't want, why am I saying I'm sorry? I'm not sorry. I swear to God, this fandom is worse than the Attack on Titan fandom, and if you're in the Attack on Titan fandom, you know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. I mean, as a Star Wars fan, these movies aren't masterpieces. They're just corny, campy space operas that they're popcorn movies, and that's fine. That's not a bad thing. Woo! So after that long rant, my one final comment about this movie is that we really need a show about Lando and that girl at the end that's presumably his daughter, because that chemistry, I need to see more of that. And the Star Wars fandom's making shows out of everything now, so why not Lando and Co? So the second movie I watched in August was The Missing Link, which is one of Laika's movies. I'm trying to watch all of, like, Laika's stuff, and I think this was my last one. This movie is about an explorer, and he discovers the Sasquatch, which is essentially Bigfoot, and then him and Bigfoot, whatever his name is in the film, try to find this land with all the Yetis. For a movie that has such amazing stop motion, I don't know how Laika does it. The animation they blow out of the water for every film. But for a movie that has amazing animation, this was really lackluster to me. This plot felt extremely formulaic. I was predicting nearly everything, and then it was too much in one film. I felt like it was a 3-hour film squished into an hour and a half, which really hurt, like, character development. The pacing felt really off. The pacing felt choppy, and I felt like, because we had our 3 main characters, and I felt like we weren't able to truly learn who they were, and therefore I could not connect with them. I also didn't mesh well with the humor. It felt like it was trying really hard to be for all ages, like, because there were definitely some, like, adult jokes in there. However, it all felt like jokes only young children would laugh at. Like, even some of the adult jokes felt very juvenile. Like, some of those adult jokes felt very like a 14-year-old screaming penis in the lunchroom and everyone laughs. That kind of humor. I was also very bored, and it was also just extremely forgettable. The next movie I watched was Stepford Wives. This is about a woman who moves to a suburban town with her husband. She notices that a few husbands in this town all have these kind of secretive meetings, and some of the women are changing for the worse. So the whole movie, her and her friend are trying to figure out what's happening. I went into this movie having already seen the comedy remake with Matthew Broderick, and it was during that remake where my dad told me how this one ends. So unfortunately, I went into the movie kind of just knowing everything, because the ending is what you watch it for. The ending is like, the big plot twist does not happen until those last 5 minutes. It unfortunately took away from the viewing experience. I was not as gripped to the story as I should have been. I was not as enthralled as I was hoping to be. I wasn't as questioning as I should have been. However, when thinking about it, the script is actually very good, and it kind of, in a way, it was kind of fun just piecing together the foreshadowing, because in this movie the foreshadowing is very subtle, and I probably would have missed it if I had not already known the end. There's also, like, this one dude in there. It's like a big deal that he used to work at Disney World, but they would never say what his role was. And in the last 5 minutes, that's when they don't explicitly say it. You kind of have to put the pieces together yourself. But it was kind of chilling when I realized what the hell he did. And I know back in the day this movie came out, from what my father told me, I was not around in the 70s, but from what my father told me, one of the reasons this movie was such a big deal was because, spoiler alert, our main character does not succeed. But yeah, I ended up giving this movie 3 out of 5 stars, 3.5 out of 5 at most, and the moral of the story is that men ain't shit. Then I watched The Mitchells versus the Machines. This is about a family who decides to go on a road trip to bring the oldest daughter to college. The dad is a very outdoorsy, naturey type of guy, and he notices that the world is metaphorically being taken over by technology, until one day it is literally taken over by technology. This was a really cute movie. I think I gave it like 4.5 out of 5 stars. I mean, it was kind of formulaic. I could kind of predict everything that was going to happen, but I still also had a lot of fun with it in a way I can't really describe, so this review is going to be kind of on the short side. This is definitely a cute popcorn movie you can watch with the family, and quite frankly, kind of made me scared for my iPhone. Like, one day this thing is gonna come alive and, like, eat me. I really liked our main character. I thought she was very creative, and, like, despite what her parents were telling her, I felt like she did you know, great being able to be herself, but then also just learning a few things as the movie goes on and learning how to adapt to her situations. And the same with the father as well, because he has a lot of growing to do as well. And there's even a scene, because so the daughter has this like wooden moose that her dad made, and it's the scene where you find out what happened, and I kind of predicted the scene. I'm like, he probably did all this because of this, and then I found out I was right, and yet I still cried. I'm like, this is so cheesy and corny and like has been used over and over again, and it still got me. I actually cried during the end credits too, because the whole theme of this movie is family and how family should come together, and family is one of the most important things of your life, and how family is always there for you in times of hardship and need. So at the end of the movie, during the end credits, I think it was something along the lines of like, here are the real Mitchells. And then every time like a name popped up, whether it was like the director, producer, or cast member, whatever, on the side it would show a picture of that person with their family, and like I kind of want to cry thinking about it, because I thought that was such a nice touch, and it was so cute, and it felt so heartwarming. And I think the end credits is probably what made this movie like one of my favorites of the year. Just that heartwarming touch that I've never seen another movie do before. And also, of course, the animation in this movie was beautiful. I love the art style. I love how like cartoony all our characters look, but then the animation style itself, because I think it was a mixture of 2D and 3D animation, and they blended it really well. The next movie I watched was a rewatch. I rewatched Orphan for the first time in a few years, actually. This used to be one of my favorite movies as a kid. This is about a family who adopts an orphan girl who they think is all sunshine and rainbows, but the mom eventually gets bad vibes and finds out that this kid is psychotic as hell. Will say the plot twist as an adult is kind of I remember as a kid I was blown away by it. But as an adult, it's kind of whatever, but I still enjoyed it. Like, the actress Isabel Fuhrman is amazing, and I'm shocked she's not in more things. Everything else she's in ends up being like a really shitty movie, because I've seen a few of her other stuff, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And if she's in like a good movie like The Hunger Games, it's a very minuscule role. She could be like an Oscar-winning actress one day, but she's taking these shitty roles. But anyway, that's a weird rant. This movie is also home to the iconic line,
"When grown-ups love each other very, very much, they want to show each other that love. They want to express it."
I know. They fuck.
And basically what I've obtained from this film is that Esther is a horny bitch. She did all of this because she just wanted to have some sex, which sounds absolutely horrible out of context, and if you don't know what the plot twist is, but if you know, you know. I probably just spoiled it, but whatever. It came out in 2009. The next movie I watched was also a rewatch, and that was The Crucible. This takes place during the Salem witch trials. It's kind of based on a true story. A lot of the people in the story were real people, but a lot of creative liberties were also taken. It's just basically about a group of girls who were caught dancing, and then they made up this whole bullshit story about witches. I reacted to this movie, so I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this. I will link that up above. But basically, Queen Mother Winona Ryder is in this, and we love to see that. It still gets me that during the Stranger Things 4 hype, a Twitter youth had to be like 14, 15, said unironically that nobody would know who Winona Ryder is if it wasn't for Stranger Things. And I had to go lie down when I read that, and I think so did everyone else over the age of 20. Arthur Miller wrote this as a commentary of the Red Scare, or McCarthyism. McCarthyism was I'm saying that word wrong, but it was basically, it took place during, you know, the Red Scare in the States, when people would just be accused of being a communist for no reason other than just doing something that said person didn't like. A lot of people were wrongfully jailed, they were wrongfully mistreated. Arthur Miller basically used the Salem witch trials to comment on it, because that's what happened during the Salem witch trials. It does a great job of showing the moral, don't jump to conclusions. And it also does, with all like the screaming and people switching back and forth, it also does a good job of showing that people are hypocrites, they are scared of what they don't know, and they will throw all their morals away times like this. Because, I mean, like, one example is that the Puritans were good Christian people, or at least that's what they talked about, and yet they had no trouble killing someone they didn't even know for sure was a witch. And that's why by the end of the movie, and the book too, I think Proctor is such, like, an impactful, important character, because he's one of the very, very few who did not throw his morals away, and he refused to live a life where he would have to, so he chose the fate he chose. So finally, the last movie I watched in the month of August was Orphan First Kill, which is a prequel to Orphan. This is literally just Esther Coleman's origin story. That's the plot. And y'all, this movie is so dumb, and I love it. I loved nearly every single minute of this movie. It's one of those so bad it's good horror movies. got kind of campy after a while, which was real weird because it didn't start out campy, it just made the switch. I don't know. Totally different vibe than Orphan, the first one, but I was still like kind of here for it. I had a lot of fun with it. This movie does heavily rely on you having seen the first Orphan. Just because like you cannot watch this movie first without seeing the original one, because like the plot twist is there out in the open, and if you don't already know the plot twist to Orphan, this prequel is going to make absolute no sense to you because it really leans into that. However, given the plot twist and given our lead actress's age, the camera work to make her seem like an 8-year-old is very obvious. Just things looked disproportionate. Because I believe I'm 5'1", and I believe Isabelle Fuhrman, who plays Esther, is taller than me by I don't know by how much, but I think she is taller than me. Also, did you guys see those behind the scene photos of like the shoes they had to wear to make Isabelle Fuhrman look short? Like they're like wearing huge stiletto heels. Oh my god. But also, work it. It was hard to have a suspension of disbelief of the age given how old Isabelle Fuhrman was filming this. She filmed the first Orphan at like 10 years old, and in this one she's in her early 20s. And it was hard. Like, I'm gonna put spoiler down because in order to talk about what I mean, it is a huge spoiler for the first Orphan. But Isabelle Fuhrman is supposed to look like an adult who can pass for a child. So she's essentially supposed to look like she's only a child. However, you can tell she's an adult. And you got a bunch of people in the comments of like reviews and trailers saying, oh my god, you're so stupid, that's the whole point, SMH. But it's like, no. The whole point is that she's supposed to pass for a child. But Isabelle Fuhrman looks her age. She looks like she's in her early 20s. She looks significantly older than she does in the first Orphan. And I know the movie was boasting how they didn't use like special effects to make her look younger and blah blah blah. They just used makeup. But in my personal opinion, I think they failed. I think they failed at what they were trying to achieve. It was just weird watching this movie and like people looking at Isabelle Fuhrman and being like, oh my god, what a child, and like genuinely mistaking her for a child when she doesn't look like that at all. So like a lot of comments were like, oh my god, just suspend your disbelief, SMH, like just enjoy, why can't people just ignore the minute details and enjoy the movie? But it's like, it's hard to ignore the minute details when it's the look of the lead actress. It was also very obvious when they were using Isabelle Fuhrman versus a body double, because I noticed when you saw Isabelle's face, they made a point to only show from here on up. If they ever showed like her backside, like a full body backside, you could just somehow, I don't know how to describe it, but you could just easily tell that was a genuine, like a literal child and not Isabelle Fuhrman. Going back to like the plot itself, despite like having fun with how bad this was, I do have a love-hate relationship with the plot twist of the film. Because when I watched the trailer, I was 100% expecting this to be like a rehash of the original, which given the plot twist, that's not what we got at all, so I do appreciate that. However, with the plot twist, Esther wasn't as evil as I wanted her to be. The one actress, I think her name's Julia Stiles, she's in 10 Things I Hate About You. Very awkward acting, and I still can't tell if that was purposeful or not. It came off as very awkward pre-plot twist, but then like post-plot twist, I was like, so was that all on purpose? Were you supposed to be like that? Or are you just not good at your job? You know, especially, oh my god, especially when she tried being like a tough woman and like swearing. Like she swears like someone who wasn't allowed to swear growing up and was like it was ingrained in her head that swearing is sinful. But like now she could do whatever she wants because she's not under her parents' thumb, but she's still incredibly uncomfortable with it and like feels like she's doing it behind her parents' back. It just doesn't roll off the tongue naturally. So that was really weird for me. So yeah, my notes say awkward acting, but is it the actress or the character putting on a show? Which I guess sums up what I was trying to say. Also, I was kind of like low-key rooting for her to get with the dad, which again sounds absolutely horrible with no context if you don't know the plot twist to the first Orphan movie. But like, Esther, I was kind of rooting for you. I was very much rooting for you just because that's how much I hated everyone else in this movie. And of course, given this is a prequel, like Esther has to win. So like that's like, you know, she's going to win because she has to. But I was still expecting that win to go out with a bang. But to me personally, this I was actually very disappointed in. Her win felt very anticlimactic. I mean, because when you have the psycho killer and you know she has to win because there's a movie that takes place after these events, I was expecting to be like gasping in my seat, going like this, like, oh my god, screaming, and I just sat there like, oh, okay, like with a poker face. Didn't even flinch. I was upset. Yeah, so I was upset by her win. They could have done a lot more with that. And I thought like everyone else's demise was also anticlimactic. My favorite scene though is there's like this one scene where Esther's driving with sunglasses on and a cigarette in her mouth and Maniac playing in the background. And I was like, what in the Lana Del Rey is this? She's a maniac, but yeah, those are my final thoughts on this movie. Again, another hot mess, but that's because this movie was kind of a hot mess. Honestly, I'm shocked that Isabel Fuhrman, given the gap between this movie and the first one, she was just able to like slip right back into character like that, which I know is her job as an actress, but it's still like amazing to me. And obviously her acting has improved a lot since the first movie, and she was already great in that first movie. Critically, I would give this movie like 1 out of 5 stars. Entertainment value for this movie, 5 out of 5. So in the end, I averaged that out and gave this movie 3 out of 5 stars. And that is it for this video. I finally got to talk about these movies. These notes have been sitting on my dining room table since September. And I'm finally, and on November 23rd, 2022, I'm finally talking about these movies, and I can finally throw the sheet of paper away. I'm gonna recycle it because I care about our environment. We also apparently get fined in Chicago if they find recyclable stuff in our trash bin. So that's it for this video. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Let me know down below what movies y'all been watching. And without further ado, I'm gonna peace out and I'll see you guys later. Ciao a tutti!